So I was just driving down the road, actually heading toward Factory Butte, and I came across this amazing scene, this beautiful backlit cottonwood with beautiful multicolored grasses in front of it, all backlit by the rising sun, and it was just stunning. I've always admired these types of photographs with the beautiful colored grasses in front of an interesting tree, and I'm super excited to have found one, really just right by the side of the road. Certainly not a wilderness experience by any stretch of the imagination, but just a gorgeous, gorgeous tree in some really pretty light.
Like some of the others, this transparency also suffered from fogging around the edges that happened at the lab. But since my lens selection forced me to shoot a bit wide, I'd planned on cropping this one anyway, so once again, we got away with it.
So I used the 300mm lens. I tried the 450, but it was a little too tight. The 300's a little too wide, so I will have to crop in a little bit, but that'll be okay. And I used just a little bit of front tilt to get everything in focus from the foreground to the background cliff. So it was pretty easy, and I did expose Provia and Velvia and Ectar. There's a little bit of cloud in the sky, and as the sun is going in and out, contrast range changed a little bit, but it was always pretty surprisingly a small contrast range, so I think even with the Velvia, it'll be really nice. So I'm really excited to have found this picture. This is exactly the kind of thing I'm always looking for, and thrilled to have found it today.
Another thing that's pretty amazing is how long these conditions have lasted. I've probably been here photographing for an hour, and when I first got here I thought I wouldn't maybe even have enough time to photograph with the view camera. But these conditions have just persisted, and it's just as shootable right now as it was when I first got here. It's just stunning and just been so still this whole entire time. Just a wonderful location.
One thing I want to mention is not to be afraid to shoot in backlight conditions like this. It's sort of been a rule of thumb that the light coming from behind the subject is you can get flare and you can, I don't know, it just washes it out or whatever. But honestly, for landscape photography, in the right circumstances, and if you carefully shade your lens, backlight can be just beautiful. And you usually find that the brightness range, the contrast range, isn't as great as you might think.
It's amazing that the area surrounding where I am right now photographing is just this stark looking desert environment. It doesn't look anything like this one spot where the tree is that I just finished photographing. But so I guess it's kind of like a little oasis in the desert. It's been so windy over in Capitol Reef the last several days that I've been there, but today it's just dead calm, and it's so nice because these grasses, just a littlest bit of movement would really spoil it. So this has been really great to work in these conditions this morning. Well, I made it out to the Blue Hills, north of Caneville, Utah. What a beautiful and desolate place. Fantastic area for abstracts. Just pointing the camera down into this wonderful stuff can really make some interesting images. Nothing but pattern and swirl and form and line and texture. Just wonderful stuff. Two of my goals for this trip were to come out and see Factory Butte and also look at these blue hills. And so I'm really glad I was able to do it. I had actually thought I would allocate a little more time to this area, but I got so involved with other things over in Long Canyon and over on Boulder Mountain that I didn't have quite as much time to spend here in this area north of Caneville as I initially planned. But that's what you have to do on these landscape photography trips. You absolutely just have to go with the flow, follow the conditions, and just wherever you are led to photograph, or something looks good and you need to stop and work on it and not hold so tightly to the plans that you made, months ago when you were planning this trip. So it was great to see this area. I sure would like to come back. Now, though, it's time to head back out of this area and get back on over toward Escalante, although I am going to try to stop at Long Canyon again and just check the progress of the color, because there's still a couple of shots there that I'd like to work on later this month if the trees turn and if I'm able to get back over there. So that's it. I hope you enjoy the images from this area. I was thinking mostly in black and white, I think, and they had the camera set to black and white, and I was just aiming down and working on those images. So I'll be interested to get those back in the computer and see how they turned out. And we're going to head on down the road and see what else I can find. Well, I've been driving by this beautiful little area for a bunch of days now as I've been going back and forth over Boulder Mountain. And I finally stopped and photographed it with the view camera. Had to wait a little bit for the wind, but the light is so pretty on this mixture of aspen and pine, and I think it's just a beautiful little scene, and I'm so happy to have photographed this. I used my 450 millimeter lens, and it really was reach out and extract a small part of this scene, but I was able to keep the sky out of it and the road out of it. I am right by the road once again, but I think this is such a neat little picture, and I'm really excited to have got it. Can't wait to see the film on this one. So now I'm going to continue head on up over Boulder Mountain and head on to Escalante today. I'm showing you the transparency here, but for the finished image I scanned the Ektar color negative. Looking at the transparency, I think the leaves on this aspen are right on the edge of being overexposed, and I couldn't pull out the detail I wanted with my home scanner. It's possible with a high-quality drum scan that detail could be preserved.
If you enjoy this content and would like more information about me and my photography, please head on over to my website at scottwaltonphotographs.com. I have an ebook, annual folios, and handmade fine art prints available from locations all across the country. Thanks so much for checking that out.